Texas A&M baseball head coach and new Texas A&M pitching coach, Max Weiner. Really, really excited for this segment. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
So, well, I don't know if there's anyone more excited than you right now today. It's probably you, Max. Let's start with you. And just these last couple days, I guess, have had to have been a whirlwind between press conferences, getting to know everybody, and as he always tells me, the recruiting, the portaling, it never stops. So I guess I'm assuming you've hit the ground running and head spinning right now.
I'd say running and trying to stay afloat, but I think I said this to you, and I said this to you the other day. A huge reason why I'm here is because of the way that it's gone about. So it doesn't feel like I'm making a million transactional calls. It's Nolan and Jim have really set it up so I have time to connect and build the relationship. And it's not one kid to one kid. It's getting to know a kid, processing it, spending time, and getting to know the next kid. And that's what's been really meaningful. It's not quick. It feels slow while I'm there.
Well, that's good. That's what I was going to ask you is how important is it in those first meetings to first impressions are everything, right? And to sit down when you get to know the current team, the incoming guys, and not rush through it. And you answered that. That's what's going to be my next question there. So.
I just think kids deserve time, and they deserve you to be present, to put the phone down, and to really sink your teeth into them. And I think that's what this program's about, and I think that's why Jim's done such a great job and been to Omaha 5 times, and that's why Nolan is able to bring all the right kids in. It's because there's a certain care factor. It's not all about glitz and glam. It's culture and the right people.
And
6, but who's counting?
I'm not a math guy, Coach.
Hey,
7 if you include Tulane, but
I forgot about Tulane. When you said that in my head, I was like, I'm surprised you didn't crack it. That's just because y'all are all new.
No, that's all good.
One day
I haven't been sleeping much, so my math's been way off.
Well, it's 1 here and 1 in 2 years, so that's a pretty strong start. And obviously, part of the reason you made this hire was to push that number to 7 and beyond.
Oh.
What was it that went into? Because I know how excited you were when this opportunity presented itself, and talk to us a little bit about when Max's name.
Yeah, sure. So, I think anytime you have an opening, whether it be you lose a player or a coach or a staff member, you always on one hand, you hate that you have to deal with that, but on the other hand, everything in life's an opportunity to get better or different. Appreciate what Coach Yeski did during his time here, but for me, I had a very specific profile that I really wanted to shoot for, and somebody that had experience both in the competition side of, because we're trying to win games, but also really heavy in the development side, and really wanted somebody. I used Mike early as kind of the profile, a guy that's younger, who has experience, who can, the older I get, what's the Matthew McConaughey line? I keep getting older, and the players keep staying the same.
You're sitting next to?
They keep staying the same age. So I really wanted somebody that, I don't know if connect with the players is the right word, but just someone who's a little closer, maybe closer in age to them, who is also on the brink of how to coach pitchers these days, and not just develop them in a lab, but develop them to win a game. And, we don't play 140 games like the minor leagues. We don't play 162 plus like the big leagues. Like, the games count. Every college baseball game feels like a college football game, at least to me. So that was the profile. And, I've been doing this 34 years, so know a lot of people. And whether it be college head coaches, assistant coaches, major league GMs, major league pitching coaches, minor league people, I just spent literally, 5-6 days either flying across the country or on the phone, talking with a lot of people, interviewed a lot of people, had a lot of deep conversations with a lot of people. And, one name kept coming up, and Max was that name. And luckily his immediate boss in the Mariners system was a very longtime friend of mine named Andy McKay. And to Andy's credit, he was very transparent. Some people will get selfish and try to hold on to their people. But I think Andy had a really good feel for what Max wanted to do in his career. And to be real honest with you, the number one thing in our conversations that attracted me is Max wanting to be a college coach.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people in professional baseball that were curious about college baseball or going back to college baseball, but only one guy really jumped through the phone and said, you know what, this is what I've wanted to do, mine since he said 12 years old. So
really?
I'll let him speak on that.
Yeah.
But that was really the impetus to move forward with Max.
What is it about I mean, I think you already touched on it with the relationship aspect of it, and the not just molding young arms, but young people. What is it that for that long has had you eyeballing the college game and go, if the right opportunity comes, it's what I'd love to do?
It's not just the what, it really is like the how you go about it and the who you're with. And it's one thing to want to be a coach. It's another thing to want to be the Aggies pitching coach under this leadership. And that is specifically why this is so exciting. But if I want to win, and I do, and we expect to win, the way to win isn't by saying, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to win. It's a very clear, thought-out process, showing expectations, helping kids understand how to manage their emotions, how to create clarity in a plan, and how to be a better competitor. And these are the things that's really meaningful, and it's a ton of fun to help a guy who's 35 make a pitch move more.
Yeah.
But what's more fun and what's more fulfilling is helping the young kid get his emotions and his thoughts to that point to learn how to make it move more. And it hurts when you get to know the finished product of someone, or at least a more developed product, and you miss the foundational pieces. And this is a chance for me to get to know kids at 16 and get to know them till they're 56, 66, and really have that family culture. And I think that'll be really reflected with how many professional pitchers are coming back here who aren't even Aggie former students who are here in the fall with our guys.
Yeah. Richard, you got
I mean, for both Coach Schlossnagle and Max, I mean, Coach Schloss, you've talked about how exciting the search was, but since he's been here, since Max has gotten here, since the hire's been announced on Monday, what about his work ethic and things he's shown just in a few days have you fired up? And then for both of you guys, what have the early returns been like with the current staff and the guys on this roster about getting to work with Max?
Yeah, so I think what was impressive was Max wanted to be here. He didn't check a bag when he came. He brought his girlfriend, potentially future fiance. They looked around. She went on a plane back home to Seattle, and we took him to Maroon U, CC Creations, and
I like that
and the equipment room just to get him some clothes.
Right.
And he just went to work. And I think it's kind of, I compare it to the recruit that wants to be an Aggie versus the guy that wants to take 5 official visits, 4 unofficial visits, and you spend more time convincing than you do recruiting, and those players never seem to work out. A, we rarely get them, and B, even when you do get them, it's something about that doesn't work. And so Max wanted to be here. He was like, yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go to work. I'll go home at the end of the summer, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but that's, he's ready to go. And then the returns, I think all of the, it took some conversation, which is fair, with guys like, Ryan Prager and Justin Lampkin, and not necessarily to convince them to stay, but just young players get attached to coaches, that's natural. And all my request to those players is just trust me, just trust it. I think I've proven a track record of hiring coaches, and just let me get through the process. And again, I've said it before, it's real easy to hire a guy that doesn't have a job. It's easy to hire that doesn't have as good a job. It's hard to hire a guy that has a great job. Yeah. And so Max was, I asked him one time in a text, I was like, hey man, like, you don't be flaking out on me, man, because the timing of this was so crucial with the draft and the transfer portal and everything that was going on. And I know his quote was, that's not in my DNA. And so that has stuck out, and he's been working like crazy. And the response, both from the players, the recruiting community, agents, which play a big role in things these days, professional baseball, all that stuff's been positive.
That's exactly right. And Jim talked to my girlfriend, Lindsay. She runs a food bank up in Seattle. She just put in her 2 weeks, and she's packing up while we're taking care of our guys here. And I think the good thing about doing this is it's a family commitment for me. My family they're all locked in. I'm one of 4 brothers. Everyone's locked in. So it doesn't feel that this is a chore or I'm trying to tread water. Yeah. This feels like what we're doing. And I think when you immerse yourself and you're fully committed, like my life and my family's life is committed to helping each Aggie pitcher in this collective group. And it's not coach speak, it's just the reality. And this is how serious it is, because these kids get one chance at a career and each team gets 1 year as a team. So it sounds serious, and it is. And like I said, it's not coach talk, and I think over the years that'll come through.
I know Coach Schlossnagle touched on a couple names, but Max, in your early research and digging into video and stuff like that, who are some of the kids on this roster and on this pitching staff already that you're probably most excited to get to work with?
It's not necessarily that I'd like to single anyone out, but I think it's the collective group. I think what we have is the ability to have a rhythm to our pitching staff that's going to be developed through our dominate the zone identity. We're going to absolutely do a great job of winning the 0-0, getting ahead of hitters, winning the 1-1 count, and maximizing our strikeout to walk ratio. Now, how every kid does that is going to be massively different, and whether it's a young pup like Luke Jackson coming back from an injury with a wonderful changeup, or a young guy coming back like Ryan Prager who shows great promise, or Chris Cortez who has a massively different skill set, we're going to be super sensitive to what their arsenal needs and what the game plan calls, and we're going to be super prepared, and each guy will have clarity going into each weekend and each inning and each pitch.
What you talk about being on the cutting edge of pitching in 2023 and player development, things like that. Talk to us, either one of y'all or both, let's say in the last 10 years. So when you were a player and when you're already a veteran proven World Series coach and you're watching the game change, the way people develop pitchers, and you're a young pitcher watching this going, hey, I see myself coaching one day. What's the biggest difference now in this than 10 years ago? How much has it really, truly changed?
Well, from my end, it's, there used to be a day like when you and I were, it's a long time ago when you and I were athletes, but there was no why. You was like, Coach told me to do this and I'm going to do this. Coach told me to do this with my curveball or this with my jump shot, and that's what I'm going to do. And now there's evidence to what works. Or you could say, man, why is that guy, this guy throws 95 and gets hit, and this guy throws 89 and no one hits him. Yeah. Like, what is that? What? I don't understand. And now there's literally there's reasons behind that. There's evidence, and maybe there's a way to take someone has one level maybe and teach them how to get to that point. And the evidence isn't hidden. The evidence is public, so everybody knows. That players, today's player, today's youth coach, today's agent, or whatever, their personal coach, they all know these things. So if you're not at least well versed in it, then you're behind. What I want to make sure we don't lose is we're just trying to win the games, right? And the game isn't played in a lab; it's played on a field. So the key is being able to combine the pitch development, the mechanics, and developing the individual pitcher, and then teaching him how to take that into a game and then go win the game, right? Because there's no metric for fielding your position or holding the runner or knowing the signs. So you have to combine all those things. But it's changed immensely, and that's why I tried to make the hire that we did.
Max, Coach, you talk about change. Max, for you've been a pitching coach in the minor leagues. You've been the guy on the field last couple of years, maybe not so much with the Mariners. As the pitching coordinator in the Seattle organization, what did your day-to-day look like there, and how different is that from what you're expecting here?
I think you need to tell them first when's the last time you owned a car, and how many nights on the road you spent last year? Seriously.
Marriott's been good to me, so about 252 nights a year. I've got multiple months of free rental car days, and I just didn't really want to go home. It didn't seem like the right thing to do when players are working. And before the season even started, January 2nd, the last 5 years, fly out to Arizona, bring all the top pitchers out, and we're working every single day before spring, through spring, into the season. So there's not really time off. And Coach and I sort of joke sometimes it's not that it's less work by any means, but at least I know where I'm sleeping most nights. Yeah. And I think that's really meaningful, and that's something that's cool. So just a couple questions, I guess. First, to answer you, it's not that I think that things have changed, but to Coach's point, it's the evolution of how we're explaining it. Mm-hmm. So a huge component of the staff identity is dominating the strike zone, which that's you're going to hear us say, BU align with us, right? Aligning with us is we're going to win those counts. We're going to manage these counts. But how you do that, that's up to you. Mm-hmm. Huge part of my coaching philosophy is trying to answer the question that Ken Ravizza once posed of, are you that bad of an athlete that you need to feel great to perform well? And what we need to do is to create a practice plan that makes pitchers believe that they're competitors before they are pitchers. Because competitors have self-confidence. I'll get you out because of who I am. Pitchers have skill confidence. I'll get you out because I have horizontal break or a spin. And that's a dangerous place to live. And it's really dangerous when you're sitting there and it's Hoover and 1,000,000 degrees and it feels like you're holding a cotton ball or a cue ball. You need to get over your feelings. So everything that we're going to be doing today and tomorrow and the visualization work throughout the summer and everything that we're doing is geared toward those moments. Everything is about asking ourselves how we view ourselves as a competitor and the clarity in which the plan that we have to do so. So I don't mean to take a left turn, but I do think that it's important, especially for young guys and their support system, because they're talking to their families, understand that this isn't reinventing the wheel. This is just providing clarity so that they can visualize better and be able to debrief better and have a healthier relationship with the game.
There's such a psychology to it. And just hearing you talk, and I think everybody that's a baseball fan or has played it or follows it understands how mental that game truly is. But hearing you say that hammers it home. But also as coaches, you mentioned it a second ago. How important is it for, you can get this guy coming up can't hit a left, he struggles against a curveball from lefties. And you're in Omaha and it's the 5th inning and your pitcher's been wiping out everybody with his slider the whole game. But this guy can hit a slider pretty well, a lot better than he could hit a curve. How important is it, like you said, to be present in that game on that day and kind of where you go, I know what the information tells me, but I'm also watching this baseball game and I'm watching my pitcher and I know what's best right now.
This is a game that's played by humans.
Right.
I think that's the perfect answer. And anyone who's done anything, whether you're having a relationship with your partner, a relationship with your friend, you can have an anchor of who you are, but that doesn't mean that's who you always are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's Jim and I really get along well. Nolan and I really get along well. Mike and I get along well. And us having this great trust and talking so much, that's how we get there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's not always about how good is your stuff, right? Because your stuff sort of sets your ceiling of what you can throw, what you can express. How you manage the 15 seconds between pitches will determine how close you are to that top end threshold. So we have a mental health department. We have mental skills coaches, huge, and has a great long-standing track record of bringing in resources to help their kids manage that. There is no skill development without personal development. And that's, to your question, that really is the foundational piece. And that's kind of the cool part of this all.
I mean, it's kind of off topic, but just this last week being the All-Star week and it being in Seattle, Max, I know you had a pretty unique experience on Saturday getting to coach in the Futures game at T-Mobile Park. I'm just curious, what was that experience like for you getting to work with many of the top prospects in minor league system?
Yeah, it was super cool. It was a dream. It felt beautiful. Kind of held back tears towards the end because I love the Mariners and I'm a Mariner for life, and I feel that way. They've given me more than I could imagine and let me lead their pitching department when I was 23, and that was special. So the last day of being a Mariner, to be in T-Mobile Park, to do special things, flying out my mom, flying out my brother, one of my brothers, having my girlfriend there, being with my really, really good friends and Harold Reynolds, Jamie Moyer, Alvin Davis, Danny Wilson, Mike Cameron, these great Mariner legends. It was special. And, it's cold in here, but that was a pretty good memory regardless.
Alvin Davis, that brought back some 80s, 90s memories there.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine Zane running the Mariners pitching staff right now? Today?
Absolutely not.
That's what was happening there at 23.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to comment on that. I think, I don't know how many pitching coaches there have been in the SEC, especially since the SEC has turned into what it's become, under the age of 30. But that, that doesn't scare me. I was a My college coach, I was visiting the mound at Clemson in spring in 1993. I was 22 years old. Not sure if I knew what I was doing, but I think age is that can be an extreme positive, and so I think Max has had a lot of awesome experiences at a really young age, and I think we may not have time to talk about it today, but I think one thing that his background, his family background, is very, very unique. Dad went to military school, therefore he made all four total boys. 4 boys go to the same military school. They're all super accomplished in a lot of fields, both in military service and all kinds of different fields of life. His dad's a super successful attorney, has a really neat life story. And so, Max is the product of a great upbringing and a very unique one that has shaped him into being this really special coach at a really young age.
I think a huge part of me being here and spend time with Jim is I need this kind of leadership. I think anytime that you're an assistant coach, you need to follow and you need to learn how to do so. And whether that was Andy McKay with the Mariners, whether that was the structure of, Colonel, I guess now Brigadier General Kevin Girard when I was there, different coaches who I had in college, like Jared Goodwin, who runs Perfect Game.
Mm-hmm.
I can't learn from someone better and someone who has empathy for my position because I don't know what I don't know, but someone who's lived it can teach me and accelerate those experiences, and it's mutually beneficial for us.
And Max, Bryce Miller, 2021 Texas A&M Friday night starter, drafted by the Mariners, and of course you worked with him a lot. Get him up to the show this year. What a debut he made, having quite the first season in Seattle. What has it been like working with him, and how special of an arm has he turned into?
It'd be really difficult to overstate how much potential Bryce has, which is exciting for young pitchers. But at present, he's also dominant in the major leagues, and he has been pitching with an injured finger that's finally come out. And to see when someone makes a debut and how well that they do, that's a beautiful thing. But I'll tell you a cool story, and I know Aggies will appreciate this. So when Bryce is getting called up, I fly out to Oakland, San Francisco to spend time with him. We're there a little bit early, and it's just Bryce and I. So we go out and we play catch at a public park, and a dog eats one of the weighted balls that he's eaten because there's literally nothing there. So we're playing catch together. He's on a slope, but it's not a mound. It's actually just a really jagged public park, and it wasn't the best scene, I'll tell you that. So we're playing catch. We get done. I say, all right, big boy, what do you want? This is the last day where I'm making more than you. Where can I take you to dinner? He looks down. He starts scrolling at his phone. He goes, well, cheesecake's pretty good. So the night before his debut, when we're playing catch, we go to Cheesecake Factory. And it's really special. And in my house, I have the ball that he signed for me that we played catch with right before his debut with a scuff on it. So he's family to me, and he's a reason why I'm here, and he's a reason why it's so special to be here.
He must have been pretty fired up when he found out where you were heading, huh?
Well, we're talking tonight, and I think one of the incredible things about Jim is he's really connected with the former students, and he understands the tradition of this place, and I'm starting to get an idea, and I'm being educated each day more and more. So I'm just trying to follow that lead.
Well, football season's coming up, so I know y'all are going to have him there at the first Yell practice and that first big game at Kyle Field, which I guess would be probably Auburn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think. Bryce was actually a part of the process. Bryce, I didn't coach Bryce. I know Bryce a little bit, but Bryce had reached out to Hutch and about Max, and so as I was doing my research, then it kept coming from different angles. Whether it be from Hutch, Max, a mutual friend of ours by the name of Drew Bishop, who is former assistant coach at Texas and now does a lot with the showcase baseball community in Texas. And so Max is very well known, and so certainly took Bryce's opinion. Had a couple of my former TCU pitchers, Brandon Williamson and Marcelo Perez, who are both in the Mariner. Well, Marcelo's still in the Mariner organization. Brandon was basically used as trade bait by the Mariners, and now Brandon's in the rotation with the Cincinnati Reds. So he was another kind of homegrown pitcher that Max had a lot to do with.
All right, so a few days in, and it's got to be, just to talk about some Aggie baseball right now, got to be so hectic. And I don't think people fully comprehend to me it's different than any other sport because of the timing of it, and it's all kind of at one time. You have the draft, you have guys leaving, you have guys staying, you have guys you have to convince to stay or try to convince to stay. You have the transfer portal. They're getting locked in with the draft. You have to convince some of them to stay or go. You have the late portal window, which we see happening right now with some pretty big names from around the country going into it. You're trying to keep your players, and you have a coaching change. You guys are sitting down meeting with your future pitchers for the first time. This has got to be insane. My question, though, is how's it going? How excited are you about the way in these last few weeks next year's roster is shaping up?
Yeah, super excited. I think the last 3 to 4 days, the storms or the waters, I don't know if it's storms, but just the waters have calmed a little bit. The draft's over. We have a coach hired. We had the high school players. Technically Isaac Morton still, I think will be fine, but he was drafted and he is eligible to sign up until I think August 1st. But getting through with Grahovic and Sorrell and Jack Bell and all the good young pitchers, both right and left-handed, that was big. Holding on, like you said, to the transfers. We lost one, but the others I think we're in great shape with. And then you still want to, when you get an opportunity, if it's the right fit, you still want to better your roster and try to fit as many good players under that 40-man roster as you possibly can. So we're still going through that process. I'm hoping in the next week, 5 to 6 days, that's over and done with. There's just a couple names that we're talking to, but other than that, we want to move on.
Yeah,
I haven't. This is the state of affairs of where we are. I haven't seen one young player play yet, not one.
Wow.
And Nolan has. Mike's been working since we were down a coach. We were able to get Will Fox on the road, so that's been great. We haven't talked about Mike's promotion, Nolan's promotion, but just loving our staff and besides Hutch and myself and Coach Box, it's a bunch of super successful, high producing, high energy young coaches or young staff members.
How important was it to keep Nolan? I know he's both those guys are such commodities.
Huge commodities.
It's not any kind of secret how up and coming they're considered. To get Nolan in the position you were able to get him into, and for him to come in and tell you, Coach, I'm staying.
Yeah.
And the same with Early, because I know there were so opportunities not just in the college level, but in the MLB as well.
Yeah. Anytime you have successful young coaches, you're always going to be dealing with that, and that's it's a negative sometimes to deal with because it's a headache. It pulls you away from other stuff for a little bit, but at the end of the day, you'd rather have good people.
Yeah.
If nobody's asking about your coaches, then you're either not winning or you're not very good. So, but yeah, Nolan. The thing you appreciate about Nolan, appreciate about Will, appreciate about Mike. They're really good at what they do, but they're so loyal, and they want to be here. And on my end, and thankfully Ross, Chris Park, our administration, they recognize good people, and we fight to keep good people. And so Nolan and his family love it here. Mike and his family love it here. They're not going to be here forever. We want those guys to leave when they leave. It's for a great head coaching job, and then you say, "Dang it!" But golly, we're excited for them. So that's just part of it. But yeah, it's huge, and when you lose one, that's part of it. But really love our staff.
Richard? All right, then I'm going to ask you one more thing. You can give me a quick answer. Biggest surprise of coming out of the draft? Pleasant, good, bad, whichever. But what surprised you most? Was it keeping the potential to keep all the high school guys?
I think when you look at the transfers that were draft eligible and the level of high school player that was draft eligible, the fact that we only really lost one, at least as of this second, knock on wood, that would be it. And then I don't know if this is a surprise, but just what happened for Hunter Haas.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about this, man. This guy was a decent player his freshman year. He was a high-level recruit. Then he's hurt as a sophomore at Arizona State. Can't get on the field, can't stay on the field. And then he comes here and is a fourth-round pick. And if you sit in the stands and you evaluate his pure tools, like he has a good arm but not a great arm. He's a solid runner, not a great runner. He hits some homers, but he's not a power hitter. He's a baseball player.
Yeah.
And what we want to produce here is winning players. And I think that's where the pro community looked at Hunter Haas and said, that is a winning player. He can do something in our organization to help us win. Whether that's eventually in the big leagues remains to be seen. But I was so fired up. Hate to lose him, but golly, that's the way you want to lose him, is a guy that he came here, he got better. He's a testimony for future players as to what can happen here.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you, I'd never even met him, but I was in the office when it happened. Jim's like, yes, just pumping his hands. It was really cool. So sorry if that was loud in the mic, but it was a cool moment to see.
Yeah.
So the real question is, are you going to bring him to see Randy and Wade next week? Give him a real proper introduction to College Station.
I haven't even told him about that, but he's a music fan, loves concerts. At least is what we've talked about.
Perfect.
But he's got to work, man. You and I will handle the concerts.
Go outside. That door's shut.
Yeah, no, I think he and Nolan, we got to get out and see some of our young players. So I think they're headed to Florida next week to get on that recruiting trail.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, guys, Coach Schlossnagle, Coach Weiner, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. And I know you guys said you got to get to work. There's only 217 days until we're back at Bluebell Park.
Oh, my goodness.